Good evening. You are listening live to the Extreme Movie Show. I am your host, Rob, broadcasting to you from the south of France in the Extreme Portable Studios. I have on the line with me from the Great Midwest One, RDV. Tonight, we are covering the Jean-Claude Van Damme masterpiece, or is it, called Maximum Risk from 1996, a movie starring a high-level B plus, A-minus level actress, Natasha Henstridge. And RDV, I'm going to be honest with you, I haven't seen it since the theaters. Totally forgot about it in his catalog because this is the time, right after Time Cop, where Van Damme was going to be the man over everybody in action. And the cocaine and women got a little bit too much for him, and he kind of tailed off there, as evidenced by Double Team and what would happen afterwards there, too. That being said, this movie to me, and this is probably more your territory, you know, even though I'm in my 20s and you're a teenager at the time when this came out in 96, this feels very 90s. But I do think Jean-Claude Van Damme, especially with Kickboxer and Lionheart and other movies that we've talked about, for better or for worse, this is the kind of movie that if you wanted to make him a big budget action star like a Time Cop, he's good looking enough, he's earnest enough where I think it translates well into this film. And while this may not be 100% pure martial arts and like what we like to think of when we think of action films, I think it's a solid film. I don't think it's memorable, but it's and it can even be forgettable in my case, not having seen it for 40 years. But when I watched it again, I went, yeah, I don't remember any of this. And it was solid. I thought it was not bad at all. And Natasha Henstridge, I always thought was very undervalued as an actress too. Stunning natural beauty. She's up there with me in the 90s with Diane Lane for that time period too. I'm curious, what's your take on this film? I don't know if you've seen this before or not.
Oh, I have it on TV, either VHS or DVD.
Gotcha. Okay, so part of your collection.
So yeah. So I watched this back in the 90s, actually. Probably a couple of years after, you know. And I said, like, I was going through all the Van Damme stuff. I was going through Lionheart and all this stuff, the Legionnaire. And then you had Desert Heat and Nowhere to Run, you know. And then goes Massive Risk. I'm thinking, like, man, it's got a hot chick on the cover. I'm like, wait, it's a chick from Species. Sweet.
Yes.
Because at the time, remember, in the 90s, you had other femme fatale stuff going on with her. There was Angie Everhart was doing movies too with Richard Grieco. Yeah, she was in a couple of those movies. I said, like, you know, so then we get this other blonde chick. I'm thinking, like, okay, it's the girl from the chick from Ghost of Mars. And I was like, okay, so I'm like, it's Van Damme.
Let's not forget.
And Van Damme was hot right after he did Time Cop. You know, he was just like, he couldn't do no wrong. So I was like, okay, I'll give this a chance, you know. It's called Maximum Risk, you know, and and I was reading the description. He plays like a French, you know, whatever person in here too. He's got a twin brother. I was like, ooh, he's got a twin brother. I'm like, can't be worse than the other movie. So I started watching. I was like, I like this. A little game of cat and mouse stuff. And Van Damme gets to show off his skills in here kicking, but he's also pretty much in the same sense he can do as doing with Time Cop. He has a gun, and I said it was actually a pretty solid movie. Not heavily action-packed, but more drama with a little bit of action stuff in here, too.
What did you think of his haircut? Because you see him early on, and it's different. It's a little longer. It's a little more mature, like he's no longer like a teenage-looking boy. You know, it's like he's trying to mature.
That's the thing. He looks nothing like he did in No Retreat, No Surrender, or even Bloodsport stuff. This is the Van Damme. I'm pretty much just did Street Fighter. I can do what I want now. And his haircut here, like you see on the cover here, you know, whatever you're watching, if you're looking at the vertical or horizontal stream we're streaming on, he's got decent looking hair, you know. As far as the movie goes, though, it said like I put it right up there with Assassins or the Specialists with the Stallone. I thought that was pretty good.
I enjoyed those as well, and this is also the time where you could have what we would call, and I don't mean this in a negative way at all.
No.
Some people might consider this a B-level film that was made at the A level because they were trying to find A-level replacements, and you have a lot of actors and actresses that could you know fulfill some of their career by doing some of this till they got hot again or something happened. And you know, I think I'm stating it obvious here, and I'm not trying to be a smartass when I say it, but he's Belgian, so he's French. I mean, why haven't you done a movie in France? You know, like they start off there with a chase scene and all that kind of stuff. We've seen stuff like this before. Nothing wrong with it all. I actually thought this played to his strengths a little bit.
Yeah, it's also featured Paul Ben Victor. A lot of people don't know him unless you watched like Entourage or if you watched The Wire, is based on that. But before that, if you watch the show called The Invisible Man, which was on UPN back in the day, early 2000s, he was the cop on there that was doing with the, and it was actually a pretty good show. But he's also, I guess, on, he played Moe in the 2000 television film with the Three Stooges.
That was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
I never watched The Irishman, but I did watch The Banker and stuff. And then, Last Looks, I guess, is the last one he did in 2012 or 2022 with Mel Gibson. But I said, so there a lot of no names in this, which I didn't mind, because in the 90s, you didn't need to have a lot of big names. You didn't need, you had her, the girl, she's the femme fatale, pretty much the chick. Can we trust her or not? But he falls in love with her, and it goes against his better judgment. And he's also wrapped up in stuff that his brother was involved in. And he's just trying to survive. And he just, doesn't know if he, it's like, is she really telling him the truth? And now these mobsters, like, pretty much, or these people coming after him. And I said, it was very like a tense movie, but it was actually pretty done well. And I said, it's early, still early enough. Jean-Claude Van Damme. It's a way different. If you watched Double Team, that was a bad movie. This was actually like, oh my gosh, you kind of started to redeem yourself. Kind of, for me, he was laying out the coke in this. It's almost like he sobered up a little bit and realized, hey, but I mean, like, oh my God, I'm just saying, maybe it just takes the right woman on the set for him to get sobered up. But yeah, definitely good movie. And especially if you're a fan of Natasha Henstridge, who is appearing in everything like that during that time. This was she was a smoke show in this movie.
To me, she reminded me of, like, if you go back about 20 years or so, it's late 70s, early 80s, you had, from 84, you had Against All Odds, right? The Phil Collins song and all that too, and it's a remake of whatever. It's got Jeff Bridges in it. But the lady that's in it, she was in that horror movie that we did too, from the Thornbirds. The name escapes me off the top of my head. She had a very husky voice. She was in Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. This is like the blonde version of her in a way. She has a presence. She's kind of calm looking. She's not a ditzy, dopey blonde like we would see in 80s films and all that. And I thought she's just kind of like has a natural charisma to it. Rachel Ward is the name. And the thing about Van Damme is when you're acting and you try too hard, or it's not you, or somebody forces out of you and you're not relaxed, you can tell. I felt like just like Chuck Norris, Van Damme got a little bit better as his movies have gone on. So, like I say, I think it was smart that this was filmed in this way, and it looks big. It doesn't look low budget, because at some point you've got to try not being a low budget guy, right? And so Time Cop was solid. This is solid, and so it was kind of like the right combination of greens. Because you're right, there's a lot of people that are kind of like no names that would be in a lot of these films, and it didn't really seem to matter, because it's not like they took away from it, or somebody was so good that you went, "Hey, I know it's supposed to be a vehicle for Van Damme and trying to be an A-lister. Who are we kidding? This guy's acting his ass off, right?"
Yeah, and plus, this also being a movie where he's your mistaken identity. His brother was the one that was in the mob. He's got to now deal people who think that he's his brother, who's supposed to be deceased, and now they're upset coming after him. And then just it all comes down to a security deposit box.
Well, let me just say, as far as this goes, because it's a minor detail, but I keep forgetting, and then I saw, this is, I think, the first time that he worked with a director, Ringo Lam, that did a lot of action films, and Ringo Lam and JCVD worked together on other films afterwards. So I think they had a chemistry as far as, hey, I know how to use you to make you look good, and not every director can make every actor look good. Usually, it's a vehicle for one actor, or like if you're a couple, like on screen or something, you want to capture them chemistry. Sometimes you just don't get along with actors, actresses, or the chemistry's not there. It just depends. And so I think it was kind of like a natural pairing. So I think it was a good thing for him to be in a situation like this film, because you're right. They dial back a little bit of the physicality, but to your point, Stallone had already been doing it for quite some time. Same thing with Schwarzenegger by far. Even though he still made the occasional big budget film, there was a bit more other stuff in it. So, you understand, 30 years ago, I'm going, man, this guy's going to be the next big thing. And I just felt like he was growing into the role a little bit. I like this, and you're right. It's also, what is it? We like to say, a fish out of water, because he has to go to New York and deal with everything. And so, you're coming to America, buddy, see how you deal with that.
It's one of those things LA where, and I like it because it's believable, because he's got to pretend to be his brother. And he's expected to know things. You're kind of so he's kind of bluffing his way through and stuff. And then, it's I said I kind of like those movies when you're mistaken identity, or and just these have always been fun, especially early 90s. They knew how to do movies. Still, 90s for me was still like when Hollywood still actually put effort into their stuff. And whether it's filmed on, I'm just saying, like that goes for like now, even if you go into France, because I like some of the French movies come out today, not as good as Hollywood. They're probably the same quality as Hollywood today now. A lot of stuff is kind of dropped the quality, except for Asian cinema, which is like they're stuck in like the 80s action cinema and stuff like that, fantasy. So, but yeah, like I said, this was a fun movie. Definitely worth checking out. I think it's probably like $10 if you find a DVD copy, or $5 if you can find one. But yeah, I definitely recommend if you find this in a collection, get that, especially if it's a double disc, one of those ones you flip over. I always like those.
I was rooting for Double Team tonight because I wanted to put myself through some self-harm, some torture, if you will. Just once in a while, I feel that way. But
you don't have to do that.
when I was rewatching it, that struck me was that at this point with Double Team, to be specific, and anything pretty much after that, for the most part, you could tell that either he couldn't handle success, or it was too much for him, or it just wasn't going to work out, or things changed in the 2000s, whatever you want to say, right? Because he was still young enough to do stuff. He was pretty much like Seagal, regulated to like DVD stuff, and other 80s action stars too. Dolph Lundgren, I'm looking at you. Nothing wrong with that, right? But here's the thing. At some point, I want to say about 10, 15 years ago, maybe closer to 20, I'm guessing, I remember there's like this semi-autobiographical movie with him looking really kind of like sad or whatever, and it was called just his initials, JCVD. And honestly, I've never seen it, but every single person that I know that was a fan that saw it said, man, it's different. It's really good. He can actually act. I was like, well, what the hell do you think he was doing up to this point? They're like, no, he's just kicking people. And I thought that was not fair, because the thing in this movie that reminded me of how he kind of got a second win since that JCVD semi-autobiography movie is that we're used to seeing him up to this point looking like the good-looking young boy hero that, women want to be with and guys want to emulate, but he's got that aw shucks kind of good, like if he was dating your daughter kind of vibe, or like that wholesome is the word you like to use sometimes, right? And then here, he's not negative, but I think the real natural thing that he can do that as he's getting older really starts to show is he's not smiling in this movie. I'm not saying he's frowning and pouting and acting like a little bitch, but he's generally concerned and distraught. I thought that's kind of hard to pull off when we see him kind of smiling and, making love to all the beautiful women and all the stuff that he's been doing here. So again, people want to kind of just dope down people that are action stars and say, well, they really don't know how to act. Well, even if what you're saying is true, because you can't go on stage and do Shakespeare doesn't mean you can't act. Very few people can do what like he does at this time. Honestly, in his defense, who do we have that we can do it? So again, it's one of those things where at this time I'm going, man, he's really peaking, then he falls off, but then he comes back and he's looking pretty good. But you're right, there's nothing inherently wrong with this film.
And this wasn't a canon film either, but it kind of felt like a canon film a little bit.
You think so?
I think a little bit. A lot of his roles were kind of like very similar in the 90s. I figured that out, and just kind of felt like you were getting like a different little, not say Chuck Norris, but we're kind of getting like a pretty boy version of Chuck Norris. Feels if Chuck Norris is a little more sassy, or a little younger. This felt like almost like a breaker, the way he was in there with a woman. But yeah, a cop basically finds the victim in the street, and looks at his face and has his ID and a passport. Finds out it's his dead twin brother. Goes to Russia to try to get something, evidence, and he also figures out that the FBI has been colluding with the mafia that his brother worked for, the Russian mafia.
Shocker, that never happened.
Right. The Russian hoax. What? Yeah, so like I said, it was like I thought it was pretty done decently, So like the 90s had a lot of good movies. You had I think it was Black Dog was one of them, one with Kurt Russell. He's a semi truck driver. Yeah, there's quite a few that come on the 90s. I said
Black Dog had Meatloaf. Truck Driver, I think you're thinking in the 80s with Kurt Russell. That would be
90s. No, I'm talking about A Little Trouble.
You're talking Black Dog. Okay.
Yeah,
I know Meatloaf was in it. I don't know if Kurt Russell was in that.
Kurt Russell, where his wife gets kidnapped and he has to go get her back from the truck drivers. Oh,
that's not Black Dog. That's
Breakdown. Sorry,
Breakdown. That's phenomenal.
yeah.
Bro. We've done
But
that.
he did another one. It was called like Black Dog, like within like the year or two apart. But I mean, like I said, you had a lot of good movies come out in the 90s. Like I said, a lot of it started off with like Pierce Brosnan and GoldenEye and stuff, and it's also just everyone just wanted to be that kind of style, explosions, the smooth, the pretty boy actors in there, the fight scenes of guns, and like the hot babes, or the femme fatales.
Well, you still also had Russians that could be bad guys too. And,
True. Yeah. I mean,
especially in Bond and in these kinds of films here
you
too.
could, you could have Russians. You could have, you said, well, I can't. I think trying to think of the last time I saw anything that's close to Iraq was probably bad. Was probably been the 80s with Missing in Action, with or not Missing in Action, but what was the other Delta Squad, the Force? Yeah. But I just wait with Black Dog. Thank you. That's what it was. I was trying to remember which one it was. But
go ahead.
No, I was just to say if you were a fan of Jean-Claude Van Damme, this is not over the top. This isn't like it's just a Street Fighter Van Damme. Even though that was fun though, but this is more effective, being serious route. This felt like a little bit of like a Universal Soldier in the sense of how his serious his role was. It wasn't complete comedy. It was just him just trying to do what's right. Hard Target was another one we had come out there back in the day too. Like I said, I thought this was a good movie.
Yeah, one of the things about the 90s that I noticed is like, we always joke about for Father's Day that Commando's the last real Father's Day movie that's out there. But that was really a transition to him and Stallone going into less than action roles and more like guns and explosions and stuff. And you still had some of it going to the 90s. The things, changed a little bit. You had some martial arts movies, but you had the big emo Seattle thing creeping in the music, pop culture movies, all that. You had the rock and roll basically being shut out and downplayed. No more guitarists and shredders and all that. Urban music completely replaced it. And while there was still some pop that was going on and some electronic music, which I'm a fan of some of it actually, it was different because a lot of the action films, the adult films, became more what I like to say on the superficial level, theme wise, is that the United States government put a lot of money into movies and portraying stuff where the government looks like they're smart, like your Tom Clancy's, like your thises and that. But on the flip side, you had sexy 150-pound soaking wet vampires and just goofy stuff like that. So the emphasis on raw individualism has been really degraded at this point, as well as masculinity. And either you're only good if you're like a professional in government employee or one of these bad guys, literally. And it was totally changed from the 80s, and I don't think it's very subtle either. And it's interesting because a lot of the 80s films, whether they're the Bond films or the American films like this, okay, hey, great, Tom Cruise had a lot of action thrillers as well as Clint Eastwood, and were good, but do you really care about them or remember them? No, but they were done well, and you don't mind them, and they're thrillers and they're exciting. But the other day, I don't give a shit about a government conspiracy because I've already was into them and knew all about them, and at the time, that was like the new hot thing. So Van Damme getting a chance to just kind of act here a little bit, I think, is the most surprising thing about this movie because he does a good job, I think.
Do you think he did a better job here than he did in Double Impact?
Double Impact, I have a tough time taking seriously
because he's playing because he's both on camera. It's kind of like Multiplicity with the Michael Keaton, same thing. This was he wasn't on the same camera. You didn't see his brother next to him like you saw in Double Impact, but this is another case where it's like he gets to play somebody else. I thought that was kind of cool. But I was looking at other ones he was doing. This time he did last cameo, Last Action Hero, Nowhere to Run. And just did a lot of movies. Time Cop, as it goes through. Sudden Death, it's another French Canadian. He played a French Canadian born firefighter. The Quest was the one, which is the same year as this one. I
enjoyed The Quest. That's got Roger Moore in it.
Yeah, but it bombed. Remember that?
I still think it's solid, bro. I'm telling you.
Did better, but apparently it did better. Then they did Malcolm Risk, which is this one. Double Team was the year after this.
That's
so
right.
So then he did Knockoff a year after that. So then back to Legionnaire.
What happened was he got signed to whatever studio, and they were going to give him like $5 million a film for a free film deal or something like that. He's like, no, you got to pay me 15 or 20, and they're like, fuck you. And then he said, yeah, fuck you. And he fucked himself because he just snorted all of it, basically. And
Yeah.
it's a damn shame, because if he had been more professional about what he's done, and he's talked about it, and I'm not ragging on him or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
And I still think he's had a solid career and all that too. It's just, it's different when you can play it safe and still make a good movie.
I think
But at the end of the day, are you being true to yourself and what you want to
I've
do?
always said,
At least he's still in the growing phase of his career at this point. I don't know how
Mhm.
much more after this film he actually grows and gets better, but he definitely, I think, was trying still at this point.
so remember we were reviewing the other movie with Simon Phillips, Demolition Man, Wesley
Mhm.
Snipes, and I always said that Dennis Rodman was the worst choice for knockoff. You should have had, or sorry, not knockoff, but double team. I would have rather had Wesley Snipes in there with him, with Van Damme. That would have been a much better movie.
Oh, fuck yeah. Oh, God, yeah.
I guess
Oh,
Dennis Rodman can't act. And then on top of that, they put Rob Schneider in there too. And like the last time we saw Rob Schneider in a movie was, Demolition Man, and before that was Judge Dredd. And yeah, I always said I love Stallone and Judge Dredd, but that's the only thing I like about that movie, because I think actually when I think it back, isn't Diane Lane in that too? She was his boss
in which movie?
and Judge Dredd.
Oh, she might be.
Yeah, I think she's like, yeah.
Oh, Diane Lane. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing too about movies that I noticed. I don't see it that much anymore. Some cultural stuff, like for example, there's a scene in here where, like, he's going to get some info, and he's in the sweatshop, literally, or whatever like that, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And all the guys are sitting in the sauna, and they're in their white towels, identical white towels.
Yeah.
And so you get this yoked, jacked up motherfucker who's beating the shit out of him, and of course it's all
Oh,
sweaty.
the big Russian at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, this is enough action to show us his body, show us his physicality and all that. Because again, physicality is a tool that you use. It's not the whole movie necessarily. And he was trying to, like, not just, but he was trying to be more than just that, right? And so I can applaud that.
Notice that, like, yeah, also with Rush Hour. Remember they went into the steam house room thing, and then Jackie Chan had to do the keep away fights.
Yeah, but the thing is here is, like, you don't see stuff like this in the movie where, like, if you're gonna go to, like, Little Italy, something's gonna happen, or like in Blade 1908 in the, was it 98? I think it came out.
Yeah.
When they go to the Japanese underground and all that, where the vampire bars are, and they actually had a Japanese, that girl band that's screaming and yelling and all that stuff, because that's a thing. I don't know what it's called. I don't know Japanese culture.
Well, I'm just saying that opening scene with the bar though, when he drives in and then just like
underground rave. I mean, are you kidding me? Thing. Oh,
well,
yeah.
Underground raves are so popular in the 90s. It was even included in Batman Beyond, the animated series. That's supposed to be futuristic though, but they still had raves like that. Buffy, remember they had their own, called the Bronze. They had their clubs. So it's like, when you watch a movie, it's in the 90s, and then it has like a rave or underground stuff like that. I kind of like that, because I feel like we've gone away from that. The clubs, are gone. If there's so many clubs around, they're not the same like they were in the late mid 90s.
Okay, let me throw this at you, because somebody brought this to my attention the other day, and I thought it was a very interesting idea, and I couldn't stop thinking about it when I'm watching this movie with Jean-Claude. And this applies to, like, almost anything that's made on TV today.
Mm-hmm.
We can talk about how the audio is overdone with action sounds or whatever, and it doesn't mix well and all that, and the shittiness of it, and how colors are all graded, and how you can't see a fucking thing, especially in Netflix and all that. And they know it, and they don't care, because you're right, they don't care. But the thing is I've noticed is that if you watch an older show, like, for example, I've been working my way through Erie, Indiana, which is like a kid's horror show that was on for one season that was kind of sharp-witted and fast dialogue and all that with these kids, and it's kind of like all these different monster things in a small little town, right? And I remember going, yeah, that looks like an interesting small town, and the kids are going somewhere, and cars are driving behind them, people are watering their yards, all this stupid street activity stuff you would see, right?
Yeah.
Now, when you go watch a show today, and people are walking down the street or this, that, there's no crowds anymore. There's none of that fake stuff that people are around that makes you, if you're paying attention to it, believe that they're in that town. They've just said, fuck it, we don't need the extras. We'll just film the people doing whatever, and that's it. And it makes it even more noticeable that while I'm trying to enjoy something I know is fake in a movie, it's harder for me to suspend my disbelief in it. So, like here, when they have the big steam room fight or whatever like that, there's a bunch of people in there. Not all of them are going to be involved in it. Not all of them are going to get shot. It's just, It's to show you, yeah, there's an entire crowd of Russian mafia. Now you see the Russian mafia. Now they're in a fight. Most of them clear out. A couple get stabbed, shot, whatever like that. You have your action sequence, move on to the next point of the plot, but you still see lots of bodies. And anything with New York City or LA, you'd always see how bum infested it is. The low lives, the highlights. You'd see tons of people. You'd see the busy street scenes.
Yeah.
But now when you watch stuff, they've physically taken people out of it, and it's just awful. It's just not even worth watching. And I know Netflix and all these major companies go, you know what? We spent so much on AI and CGI that we're not going to bother doing anymore to pay people because it's actually cheaper to do something. It costs us more. We can only make so many tent poles. But that's why I still believe. And again, I'm probably low man on totem pole here, and I'm Mr. 80s guy, so I don't like it. But that's why I cannot stand any of these action movies that are the superhero comic book types and all that, because it looks so fake. And I get there's a fakeness to it or whatever, but unless it's Godzilla -1 or Godzilla from 2014 where they get it right, they're horrible to watch. And nobody can do action anymore at all. I don't know, man. It's tough because Maximus to me was just an average B movie at the time, and it's still not bad. It hasn't declined to me, but I'm going, wow.
With years,
I appreciate it a bit more now compared to all the crap that's out today, which is what I think you're saying.
Well, you look at all the movies he did after this with the Ringo Lam, and they started. And honestly, once he went to direct the DVD or direct home movie, they started getting worse. I noticed that, except for a few. I was looking at, he did a lot of, and don't even get me started on the Universal Soldier, sequels. Those were getting bad. But by 2000,
if it wasn't for them doing all these DVD, VHS movies, we would never get Scott Adkins having a career.
Yes, I said Until Death was pretty good. 2007. He also did Wake of Death. That was another one he did before that. In Hell, which was in 2000, I believe 3. Yeah.
In Hell was pretty good. I think that was 2003.
But then, like you said, he starts doing these other movies, like he's doing 2008. He's doing The Shepherd, Border Patrol. Then he goes Universal Regeneration. Then he's like then he did a barely released movie called Full Love. Did that, which he directed. He started directing his own movies. That's the thing. When people start directing their own movies, sometimes it's good, and sometimes it's like, no, just stick to doing the action what they tell you to do. But then he joined the Expendables. You remember that? And then he did Assassination Games back in 2011, which is really good. Him and Scott Adkins. Scott Adkins' wife. Someone killed Scott Adkins' wife. And he's there to help him get revenge and stuff. It's just like he started doing another movie called. Then he did another comedy film, and then he did some movie called A UFO. Then he did Dragon Eyes. Dragon Eyes looked pretty good, 2012. Then you have Universal Soldier Day of Reckoning. I was like, oh no.
See, I remember that thinking it wasn't bad. I might be wrong, but there's one of those that was pretty good. That was the one that might have Scott Adkins in it.
Scott Adkins was the one before. I think it was in New Generation. I think is in that one.
Regeneration or something. Yes.
Yeah, because I know Reckoning is the other one. No. That's actually no. He is in the Reckoning one. That's Scott Adkins. They tried to boost his career. 6 Bullets. He did the same year as that, and then he started doing all these other stuff. He started doing some YouTube stuff, some advertising stuff. He did the Coors Light commercial where he's doing the splits.
Yep. We saw the one with the plane and all that too. The commercial. And he did a dance video that was really popular too. We're just vibing through it.
So the one I actually want to see by him is called Swelter. It was on 14 American action movie. Written and directed by Keith Palmer, starring JCVD, Lenny James. It has Alfred Molina in there, Josh Henderson, and I believe So it's just like he plays a small. So he does that, and then he does A Pound of Flesh. He's also, and then he comes back for Kickbox Vengeance 2016,
and that's not bad.
Yeah,
that is not a bad film, bro. That's one we need on our short list.
The last one the last movie I actually watched him, as far as the newer movies, was Kill 'Em All 2017. I went out and bought that at Walmart, and then he came back in Kickboxer Retaliation, and then he was in Blackwater. That was him with Dolph Lundgren for the first time in like how many years?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, then The Last Mercenary. We watched that one. I think back. That's the one you and I reviewed. The Last Mercenary, 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then he's I don't know, man.
Let me say this about Natasha Henstridge.
Yeah.
Or any woman in general. You can be too beautiful and too stunning. This goes for a man or woman. That's distracting from the movie. And you could do that by the way you dress, the way stuff sticks out, unless it's a part of the thing. Like you got some blonde bimbo teenager that's going to get a throat slit because she's going to have sex and it's a slasher film, right? We understand that. I mean, not that they do that anymore, but
she's a draw to the film for me.
Well, here's the thing with Natasha. She seems very intelligent. She's tall. She's a Nordic beauty. She's just one of the got those natural genes.
The whole 9 yards, you know, all this stuff.
Yeah. Oh God. Well, and Amanda Peet was going to be another one of those too around that time. But I think when you see her in a film like this, because she's like the love interest, the female star or whatever of the film, I think some pressure can be put onto you as a female. Oh, you're just there to service the guy's needs, or do like Rocky Balboa's wife Adrian and just say win, but which is still badass and cool, right? And then of course I think the strong independent thing really took its own turn in the 90s. And looking at Demi Moore and some films and others, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I think for her there's such a calmness about her when she's on screen, where she's just not in your face beautiful about it, like she's acting overly sexy. She just has got a nice calming presence there. And I thought there was just a genuine nice chemistry between her and JCVD on it. And the last movie I saw her in, she was probably about 50 years old, it was a couple of years ago. It had an 80-year-old Lance Henriksen in there called The Unhealer. And it was just a little small film about whatever and all that. And I thought to myself, I love Lance Henriksen. I've loved the TV show Millennium. We'll get to that at one point here. And a lot of these people, like Lance, has done hundreds of credits, and you may not remember him, but he was in a Terminator, he's in a lot of things. And I just go, Natasha's one of those ones. She's only 50. She's got a ways to go. She could still do more if she wants to. And that's why it kind of made me think of something recently you and I covered. It's kind of funny how these things are connected, but I go back to the 2 different sets of episodes we reviewed of The Madison, because I love Kurt Russell. He's pushing 80. Michelle Pfeiffer, known for Scarface and other things too. She's in her 60s, I think, in this. I thought, when does Hollywood actually give old people a chance to star in films? It's not often happening. No. You'll get it occasionally. Well, but then, of course, the way they hoodwinked us and all that with the Madison and everything too, it's kind of disappointing because there's roles then people can still act in their ages and all that. I don't care. And Natasha could still act at this age.
Yeah, she's 50. She's only 51.
Yeah,
she could definitely do what she wants to do. I was just looking at another actress, I forget who it was the other night, and then turns out she's now on that show with David Boreanaz, CBS show. I forgot who it was, but because I was looking, I was like, because when I look up like movies and I look at actors, I'm like, oh, who's this? And I'm like, okay, what are they doing? I haven't seen them in like years, and that's where you find them on TV shows now. With the whole Yellowstone stuff, I think there's a good chance you could start seeing some of these older actresses come back, and start doing stuff. They might not be the young girl role for Femme Fatale, but who knows? Well,
also from the 80s and 90s, you're starting to see some of those women that were young at the time be like mommies now.
Yeah.
Which that happens. That's the thing. I mean, I don't want to watch it, but if I know the parents, maybe I do, right?
Depending on what you're watching. Back in the 80s, you had 30-year-olds that had like kids, because women look older. Everyone looked older in the 80s and 70s on TV shows.
Yeah, that's true.
Every dress. So I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you start seeing getting more action movies with women.
I'm going to respond to Starry Night in chat saying I never saw Stargate. I want to. Now, that was the movie that had 95, 96, 97, like that.
I will say this.
That's the MacGyver guy in it. I forget his name off the top of my head. Richard Dean Anderson. Not Richard Dean.
Anderson. Yeah.
Richard Dean Anderson, is it?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So I thought MacGyver was a solid show. I watched it for a little bit when I was younger. I thought he was actually good in Stargate, and Stargate was something that actually spawned, I think, a TV show, if I'm correct, in the 90s. Isn't that right, RDV? Movies. Stargate is something that nobody ever talks about, and it's under. I think it's underrepresented. It's very solid.
I've never liked Stargate the movie. I think the show was all 10 times better than the movie was.
Okay, Richard Dean was, I think, in a TV show.
The series. Yeah, Kurt Russell was.
Did it. Yes.
Yeah.
So I think that's how it turned out. Because you could get some of these things where, hey, wait a minute. Now you've got some of these channels now with cable TV starting to have a lot more normal penetration.
A lot of people like the guy.
You could do something like that.
Yeah. The guy, everybody liked the actor who took over James Spader's role, as David or whatever his name is, in the TV series. And then said you got a solid cast in there too for that show. Just like any show though, I think it just jumps the shark eventually, after a couple seasons. But
well, there's an actor in the 90s that was on a TV show, and I think he's Welsh, and he talks like this and he's just got this kind of like really interesting presence to him, Indy, that kind of thing, John Rhys Davies. And he was in a show that had the guy that was on Scream and all that. I forget his name. He's been in some stuff. You would know the guy's name. And it was called Sliders. And it was like on a sci-fi channel. And back in like 93 or 94, when I first got cable, I got like all these channels, and all the stuff on sci-fi was good because they played traditional science fiction. They would get people like Harlan Ellison, a science fiction writer, introduce stuff. They would have famous names and authors come on and do stuff. And then it kind of went into more poppy sci-fi in the late 90s. And that's not a knock on Buffy or Ames or any of those other things, but it's no Night Stalker or any of those kinds of things. Or whatever.
Well, here's the difference: is that Josh introduced the whole Scooby Gang.
That's Scoobies. Yeah,
that's what ruined everything. I was trying to think of the actress it was Jessica Pear from Mad Men. I was trying to figure out where she went to after that show ended. Mm-hmm. She ended up on, I think it was on SEAL Team with David Boreanaz.
Gotcha.
Or whatever he's doing now. I think that ended. But it's so Bones is a really good series, man.
But you watched it was either you or Professor Pixel who watched Hercules and Xena.
That was me.
Okay, but those were solid. You know what? I watched the one show.
Here's the thing. I was gonna say those both started off great, both ended horribly because we started getting into the weird alphabet stuff, plots, and and they went multiverse. Everything. Let's kill off the character, but wait, let's bring him back as a different multiverse character. And it just got to the point where it was so diluted from what it originally was. It was originally against Hercules was going against Hera who was trying to kill him. That was the whole plot of it. But then it became something totally different. He ends up going against the archangel Michael and all, and just like, where are we going with this series? Xena became all about her and Gabrielle becoming lovers, and less about the actual fighting bad guys and saving people. Mm-hmm. And it's just like I said, both those shows went south. But I said the only good thing on those shows, I'm gonna tell you that is it was our buddy Bruce Campbell, Atelicus, the master thief, whatever that King of Thieves.
Okay, but even Bruce Campbell and everybody I knew Bruce Campbell back in the early 80s, and he got hot in the 90s. And you and I think covered.
He's still popular today. Right? That's the thing.
But think about his television stuff in the 90s. He was in Xena, right?
Yes.
He did a show in 2000, 1999.
Frisco County.
Jack of all trades.
That one. Yeah. That one.
He did another one that was
Cleopatra 2520. Yeah.
What's that?
You talking about Cleopatra 2525? He was.
No, I'm talking television shows, not.
Yeah, that was a television show. He did a reboot of that. Well, I think it was going to say it was Rosario Dawson. I can't remember.
In the 90s, I'm talking Adventures of Briscoe County Jr.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of good stuff in the 90s.
90s, 2000s, late 90s.
Interesting.
Yeah. But it it was weird because you look at the early 2000s, 90s television. I know we're off topic here in the weeds, but like I said, the late 90s, early 2000s television shows, all the sci-fi shows were great. The First Wave, I thought that was a really good sci-fi show. It was before, and you had Farscape on, you had all this cool stuff coming out and stuff, and all of a sudden it's when sci-fi decided to change their name to SYFY. Yeah. That's when everything totally shifted in tone. And here's the thing, it's not just TV series. I noticed that it was also in comic books started shifting tone as far as that. Everything started to have an agenda, and you couldn't do certain things because people didn't like that. Let's push this. Everything started getting bad. But getting back to this movie back in 1996, before he did the horrible movie Double Team a year later, this was probably like one of his last best roles that I'd really liked him in. You know, that was of the classic sense of Jean-Claude Van Damme from Nowhere to Run or Lionheart. This was the last of that bunch before he switched tones. Yeah, I think this is when I think after the end of this movie is when he started doing the cocaine. And if he was doing before, and hey, if he was doing the cocaine before when he's doing the movies, he needed to go back to that because those movies are great.
Burn notices a show. My name is Michael Weston. I'm a spy, and it's in Miami, right? So it's always going to compare to Miami Vice too, and it was just an updated version, kind of like cool. But the thing about Bruce Campbell is he does such a great job of being that other dude that's almost mildly annoying but solid. And you know, it's like a paycheck thing for me. Just not having to carry it, and it's fine.
No,
and, I always thought the main guy was a good actor, Jeffrey, whatever his name is, a little bit of an over actor, which is fine. But you know, Bruce Campbell brings a lot of fun stuff to it. You know, there's a show that came out last year on Netflix, a horror show for one season that kind of was like a Stranger Things / other stuff all kind of like rolled together, and he played like the lead cop in it, and it pisses me off because I get that Netflix doesn't want to spend money and they have their own internal alleged metrics, whatever. But they ended the season 1 on cliffhanger, then they canceled or whatever, didn't bring it back. I'm like, damn it, that's the kind of show that should be made today where you just kind of have fun and watch it. It doesn't have to be deep or preachy or messagey or trying to be the next big thing. Just be solid. We have a couple seasons and that's it.
Before the CW took over and everything, you had WB and you had shows that were pretty good in there. You had Relic Hunter. Remember that?
Oh, that's is that Tia Carrere?
Yeah. You had all these shows popping up. You had She Spies, which Natasha Henstridge was also in over at ABC. I think it was, which is basically an updated version of Charlie's Angels.
Really?
Yeah. And it was actually pretty well. I think it was the same caliber as Charlie's Angels. You know, I don't think it was any worse than the Charlie's Angels. I don't think it was any better, but I think it was on the same level. You know,
Starry Night's bringing up in chat about starting the Lakers Showtime series. It ended on HBO. I've seen the first season, not the second, and it's got a lot of names in it. And I love the grainy 80s looking effect. But here's the thing: I lived it as a Lakers fanatic. I can't stand the fucking Celtics. And I watched and lived the 80s when it comes to sports. I will say this: it's great television. However, so much of that is just completely 100% just not what happened. And that's one of the things that, not just with sports, like Starry's bringing up, but just with television shows, I think a lot of times an idea comes out for the show and everyone's talking about, oh my God, can you imagine somebody took him for granted or was an oopsie or this, that? I'm like, yeah, I've seen that before. There's really nothing new in it. And I think I appreciate the fact that for the Showtime series they were trying to capture the feel of the 80s because the guy that put it on was an actual fan of the Lakers and all that. And it's one of those, it's that one guy that did all the friggin' early 2000s comedy movies with Will Ferrell and all that too, that guy. And a lot of names are in it, and it's fun to watch. It's just not accurate. And I don't know, it's just tough.
Segueing from the comedy stuff, you know, do you know who wrote the script for this? Jason Friedberg and Aaron Seltzer. You know what they're known for? Disaster movie, epic movie, Meet the Spartans. They came in to rewrite the script for this movie, and that's what we get the final script is their version. When I read that, I was like, wow, because they do so other movies. They did Vampire Suck was the other one he did. Date movie, you know? Yeah. Like I said, seeing these guys doing actual serious movie, I was like, wow, why aren't they doing that? You know? Because it just feels like, because they do a lot of parody movies, which I never really liked, the parody movies, but they also wrote Scary Movie, the first one. They're responsible for that one. So like I said, I was shocked when I learned that it's like, wow, you actually take someone who is known for something else. This is something he wrote something else. And it's like, and this is, to me, honestly, I love Scary Movie for what it is. Never cared for the Meet the Spartans. I thought those and just got worse as they went on. And I almost like they were trying to do like, let's make it worse. Probably that's what they're doing, and see how many people buy it. But for being a this is one that basically didn't. I don't think this went straight to DVD. I don't think this went to theaters at all.
Oh, what? This movie?
Yeah. Did it go?
No. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because it came away with 51.7, so it barely made any more. Basically, by today's standard, it's considered a flop because It doubled its money, but it's you know how much they spent on advertising.
Usually it's about 50% of what you make. It was
Yeah.
starting to get bigger at this point. So if they spent 50
But you also
on the
remember
movie,
though, they
they'd have to
DVD
make
set.
roughly 75 to 100
They
before
also
they
had
break even because they have to
Yeah.
split with the theaters too.
But they also had a bunch of DVD sales, which also helped the movie out too. This was back in America, we still had DVDs. This is before streaming, so they're able to get away with it.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Now
true.
because streaming, you don't make any money because you have 20 people or whatever, or 4 or 5 people who might have been watching this movie, but now are watching it as a family, or have their coming over, the kids that are watching the movie with a single account. It's versus going out and spending the $20 for the DVD or Blu-ray.
Well, I'll say this. My final thoughts are when I think of the 90s, I think of Jean-Claude Van Damme. I think of DVDs. I think of VHS being, a thing. Because I clearly remember, for the most part, you could wait until a movie went to Target, which is starting to get big here in the South at the time, and pick up a VHS on sale for $5. And, $5 to $10, let's say, and you would have the movie, and internet was starting to become a thing in the mid to late 90s. And so it was just kind of an exciting time, probably the last exciting time after about 2000, 2001, 9/11 roughly time frame. I think things just feel sour after that, haven't really changed much. And I'm not, yelling, angrily at the sky or anything like that, but I definitely think it shows up in the pulp culture at the time, because this is not bad. It's a solid movie. Anybody's a fan, like you said, I think you summed it up best. You got to check it out. He does do some good acting here. If the movie's just kind of like The Hitman with Chuck Norris, if you're a fan, you're still going to probably end up watching it. It's not a bad thing. And it's definitely a 90s kind of film. It feels like the 90s,
right?
Looks like the 90s, and it is 90s. Thank you, Natasha Edgers, for making it the 90s. Thank you.
Yes. 2 years later, she would do Species 2.
Yes. And if you haven't seen Species, that's another solid one as well. We'll get around to that at some point, or redoing it, because I think we've already done that too. Final thoughts, sir?
Final thoughts. So as like I said, this is a movie you can watch back to back with Double Impact or even Lionheart and stuff like this. I just so recommend you guys check out his earlier movies like Nowhere to Run, Desert Heat. I think it was the other one. Yeah, Jean-Claude Van Damme was the successor to Chuck Norris for the Cannon movies. And like I say, out of everyone that came out in the 90s and stuff, as far as doing action movies, because remember, you still had Christopher Lambert still doing Highlander movies and other movies too. Yeah. So I said between Christopher Lambert and the Muscles from Brussels, I think those two are like my favorite coming out for action movies. George Clooney was kind of popping in a little bit in there and stuff with Peacemaker and some other stuff. And you had the other guy who basically like, I'm the best there is. I'm Seagal. I'm the bad guy.
Seagal's best moment was in the plane movie with all the other action stars. Executive decision with Kirov. I'm serious. And they're all standing in the back, and they're trying to, the thing comes open like that, and they're all flying around like this. Like, come on. It's like,
he's a stealth bomber, stealth fighter, and then
system like, you can make it. And he goes, no, I'm not, but you are. And then he flies off. I'm like, fuck you, Seagal. That was so tremendous on your part. And then it went downhill. But we'll get to that at some point here on the Extreme Movie Show.
That's another Kurt Russell movie.
Kurt Russell was unstoppable and still is to me.
Yeah, that's to say, Kurt Russell was doing that. Yeah, so I mean, there's quite a few actors are still going. Stallone was still going.
Yeah. And he would also do the he would also do the one where he's the robot.
Soldier.
I think in 98.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of 90s stuff we have yet to touch. Sir.
We'll have to talk about that. Do some where we bring back some movie Thunderdome. We have like the 80s crew versus the 90s movies.
Soldier versus Terminator. Boom.
Oh yeah, right. That's a specialist, versus Rambo or something else. Or Missing in Action.
Eastern tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. Season 2, episode 4. Forever Night. Check that out on Tubi as well. Also, this movie is on Tubi as well. It's a nice print. Check that out as well. Anything else, RDV?
Nope, that's about it. If you guys haven't done so, please click like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. I'll leave a comment down below telling us what your favorite part of the movie is, or if you have another favorite Jean-Claude Van movie that we haven't done, leave a recommendation. We'll check it out, and then we'll get back to you on next Tuesday for our next movie. But Sunday, like I said, we have Columbo, or not Columbo, Forever Night this Wednesday, and then we have later on Sunday, Miami Vice. Episode 9, I believe. 10? Can't remember what it is.
I think 9 or 10, something like that.
I think it's not. I think it's 9. Yeah.
Right after Glades. We just
Yeah.
did Glades. Yeah, so it should be the next one after that.
Yeah, it's Febreze. This is the next one.
Stop it. Good night, everybody.
Later.